Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Mighty Brad's podcast. Today, my guest is Opvious, who is a spiritual rapper, and he puts out a lot of content creation nowadays. Obvious, I know I was telling you this earlier, but just to inform the audience, I got into spirituality a few years ago, and over the years, I've discovered a few different rappers who and music artists who speak about spirituality. But you were actually the first one I discovered. So once I started this podcast, I'm like, at one point I got to reach out to this guy, see if he's willing to do one.
That's amazing, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Happy to be
Yeah,
here.
of course. And
Yeah.
yeah, thanks for being here. So my a big question I have for you is, choosing to be a music artist and rapping about spirituality is something that obviously most artists don't do. So, taking me back, what even introduced you to spiritual concepts in the first place?
It was definitely a while ago, like over 10 years ago. But I think like when I really started getting into it is when I heard like Joey Badass, one of my favorite rappers, like when I was just getting into rap really. Joey Badass, him talking about spirituality, the underachievers. So yeah, learning from music, the
Right.
underachievers were huge. I was like, dang, like now that they're talking about all this stuff, I gotta do some more research because it's like they made it cool. You know what I mean? They brought it to my attention. It's like something that I kind of already heard about, something that I knew about, but then it's like hearing about those topics under the light of music and just like these amazing hip hop beats. That was like the coolest thing in the world. I mean, not only that, I mean, just like YouTube, just like watching YouTube and like one of my best friends, Bismarck, who I made songs with too. He him and me, we've been tight for the longest time, and we both like discovered this music together. And so like having him there was also a big way for me to explore spirituality more because it's like I didn't have like a community or anything. Like almost no one was talking, like literally no one was talking about spirituality in my personal life, like in school, like no, no one's talking about that. So I had no one to talk about it with except for with him, with Bismarck. Another like what took me over the top and just like set everything off was discovering astral projection. Well, first lucid dreaming, but then astral projection. It was like huge. It like literally blew my world. I was like, I literally just became obsessed with astral projection. I just started researching it like 24/7, like just became deeply obsessed. Like how could this happen? And one of the YouTubers, actually, his name is Ryan Cropper. Like he was one of the big people that I was watching, getting really inspired by. And then just like once I had that, like learning about spirituality or astral projection, everything else just kind of, I just went down the rabbit hole after that.
Yeah, I feel like that's what happens. Once you just discover one or a few concepts, it's kind of like it opens the door for like, wait, there's so much more out here to
Yeah,
find.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I never really delved into astral projection much, but I know some people who have. But I do have experience with lucid dreaming. I think probably around maybe 2 years ago or a little bit more.
Mm.
I don't know if I just came across the concept or I saw a random YouTube video that was recommended to me,
Mm.
but I started watching videos on what lucid dreaming was, how to do it, etc. And I would try to do it at night, and sometimes it would work, and sometimes it wouldn't. But there were a few times that it did work. What's just so fascinating about it is, I mean, obviously, not from my knowledge, we have zero idea of why and how it happens. But for anyone who doesn't really know what it is, lucid dreaming is essentially being fully conscious and aware during your dream. And I feel as though there's so many different small sections. There's been times in my dreams where it's like I'm dreaming and in the back of my mind I kind of know I'm dreaming, but at the same time I'm not lucid to the point where I really am conscious of it. But there's also been points where you know I fully know I'm dreaming and it feels completely like real life. Like I touch this, I touch someone, touch the wall, and it feels completely real. And it's like, how is this possible? And there were also times where, um, you could just, like, I started to fly. I was like, you know what? I know I'm dreaming. I want to fly, and I jumped up and I started to fly. I remember, I think one of the first few times that it happened to me, um, I didn't know I was. I started to feel a little bit conscious, like, all right, maybe I'm dreaming. But what really set it over the edge and made me realize that I was actually dreaming was, I believe I was biking and I looked up into the sky and I saw a sideways tree fly across the sky, and I'm like, all right, now I think it's pretty safe to say I'm dreaming. With the astral projection stuff, do you have any experience with it, or you were just looking into it a lot?
I mean, initially, I really struggled to have astral projection. I did eventually have a nice handful of astral projections, but initially, it was like it took a long time to finally achieve it. Like the amount of I was doing a lot of research, like literally every strategy, every technique that exists on the internet. I was reading through all of them, and finally I had achieved it. So yeah, I did have numerous, which are on my YouTube channel, like the full experiences.
I mean, that stuff is, I mean, it's wild. I mean, have you, from your research, have you came to any conclusion? Is there any, like, science behind it, or anything that anyone's discovered of, like, why it even happens, or how it can happen?
Yeah, I mean, how it can happen is, I mean, I've boiled it down to, like, are you asking like kind of like how to induce it, like what?
Yes, and, like, how it's even, like, the science behind, if you know, how it's even possible.
Um, the science behind how it's even possible. I mean, so that's like two questions there. The science behind how it's even possible. I mean, I don't think we can fully like explain it in scientific terms. I think like, I mean, we have like quantum mechanics, and we have that, but even with that like field of study, we're like barely even scratching the surface. So I think we're still so behind, and it's actually cool. I mean, I feel like, Hinduism, like they've already understood all of this stuff, and then it's like everything they say, fine, and then science is catching up later. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, to induce it, there's really like a few very simple methods that I've discovered. I mean, it's like, oh, it's simple, but it honestly, it is simple now, but it takes a lot of patience, I have to admit. It's just through meditating in the morning. A lot of people actually think that they should be astral projecting at nighttime. I don't know why people think that that's a good idea, because when you're going to bed, you're dead tired, you're ready to just freaking be out. Doing it in the morning will increase your chances of astral projection by 90%. I'm just saying a number, but like 90%. I've never had any kind of lucid experience going to bed at night. Never. Not that I can remember. But in the morning, every single time. So, and yeah, it's really just to boil it down, it's so simple, but you wake up, would say about 6 to 7 hours of sleep, so not too much. So you want to have just a little bit of fatigue. I like to lay down. I mean, I astral projecting sitting down, or lucid dreaming sitting down, does not really work for me. So I like to lay down and literally just meditate. It's so simple, and just try to meditate as long as I can. And beforehand, I like to set the intention that I will astral project. So that's actually really important. Intent is really important, to just set that affirmation that that's what you're going to be doing, so that you can prime yourself. Because if you're just going to say, I'm just meditating and my intention is to meditate, then it's not likely you're going to have some kind of mystical experience. So you want to set the intention to have a mystical experience. And then, I mean, yeah, meditating past 30 minutes, so meditating to about like 45 minutes to an hour, that's a pretty solid time where, yeah, I usually will experience something mystical. But it should be like you wake up and you're going straight to going straight to it. It takes a lot of practice. Once you just like have this intent though, it really just it makes your whole body primed for it, and then you can really start getting really comfortable in the states of consciousness where your body just feels like starts feeling like it's like a brick, you know. It's just, and then you're still conscious, and you're like, holy crap! Like, it's hard to explain it into words, like these levels of consciousness where your body's like literally just falling asleep, but your mind is still awake. But literally, the where the magic happens is when you are literally just about to fall asleep, but you're just staying awake by like a thread. And yeah, then you can start feeling the vibrations, and you'll start hearing these crazy frequencies, like just like your mind, it sounds like there's a train in your head. And then that's usually where it happens. So that's one technique. I mean, the other technique's a lot more long-winded, so maybe I shouldn't even go into that.
Yeah, you know, like I said before, I mean, that's it's just it's crazy stuff, and I feel as though, you know, experiences like, you know, lucid dreaming, astral projection, it's becoming more, I guess, publicly accessible. Like more people are learning about it. You know, these experiences I think are experiences that everyone should try to have at least once in their life, just to, you know, see if it develops you spiritually, um, and opens your mind to a broader range of things and gets you down the rabbit hole. But you know, at the same time, you know, I've heard a lot of people talk about, you know, the rabbit hole is a gift and a curse at the same time, because it's like, and like people use the example of like the glasses that you put on. It's like once you discover a few concepts and you like take one step into the rabbit hole, you kind of just fall in and you're just like falling forever and discovering new stuff. And it's kind of like, you know, once you discover a few concepts and a few things, you can never go back. Like
Yeah,
you don't like what you see, too bad.
yeah, yeah, that's true.
Your music.
Mhm.
Why did you even decide to become an artist in general?
I mean, I've really been quote unquote an artist until since I was like a kindergartner or like younger. I mean, what I mean by that is I've always just been um, loving to experiment. I like to experiment with sounds. Like I just remember even when I was like 2 years old, like I had this like little piano, and it was like my favorite toy ever. And then like as I got older, I wasn't necessarily working on music as much, but I became an artist in the way that I was drawing a lot and just like always coming up with like my own ideas for drawing. So it really just like from a young age, just wanted to express myself artistically in any way that I really could. So it went from music to like, you know, music. I had the little piano, and then it went to like just really drawing and painting, taking art classes, and then eventually getting into metal, metal music. Then I picked up the guitar. I picked up the acoustic guitar, electric guitar, and just got really, really into that world of metal, and just wanted to be a rock star. I wanted to have a successful band. So I was like doing some screamo. I was on the guitar, and I just wanted to be a rock star. But that metal phase kind of, you know, it was a phase, so it phased out, and then yeah, just I kind of let that music part of me go for a while because I just, you know, just was skateboarding then, and then just getting into music or soccer. My senior year, when I started getting into spirituality, that's when everything just changed for me. Like learning about, you know, the astral projection, as I said, like learning about spirituality, the underachievers, hearing them, Joey Bass, hearing them. When I really started learning about like manifestation too and the law of attraction, I was that. I mean, that just empowered me so much and inspired me so much that I knew I just needed to get the message out there to the world. Um, and then I just discovered like FL Studio, or no, before FL Studio, I just randomly just started rapping, like writing raps. I just, and it was really inspired by all this news found inspirational um, spirituality, and all I knew is I just loved this message. I wanted to get out there in the world. I got FL Studio, started making beats. I'm like, shit, I might as well just like combine making beats because it's so fun with writing these raps. Why not? Like, there's artists like Kid Cudi, there's artists like Joey Badass, Kanye West. They're not the mainstream, or they're not like, what you think of rap primarily. So I'm like, I could do this too. So I just did it for fun, and then I was like really enjoying it, and I could see myself start improving, and I was like, wow, this is so fun, and I'm just putting out an incredible message into the world that's gonna help inspire others. So I'm just gonna just keep doing it, and I just became obsessed with it. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So ever since then,
Yeah, like it was one of those things where it started out as, all right, this is just fun, but then it like I'm sure it got to a point where it's like, well, wait, I really like this is real. This really might be something for me.
yeah,
And
exactly.
and
That's what it was.
and I mean, I can tell that you have like such a creative mind. The piano being your favorite toy, um, picking up the drawing, all that different stuff. That creativity can also like be transferred into other parts of your life as well. You can think of all the different possibilities of, all right, maybe I should do this instead. Once you become a little bit more conscious, I guess that's the better word for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think creativity is like, yeah, it's the unlocking of consciousness. Yeah, I feel like it's learning to to create from within. Really, like creativity. It's not just taking what was handed to you. It's not just taking everything at face value or black and white, because a lot of people think that way. Creativity is just honestly one of the most important things that you can have, because with creativity, that means that really anything is solvable or achievable. So yeah, I think without creativity, I mean, you know,
Yeah. I mean, it goes to show how important it is because, music, even if somebody isn't a musician or makes music, music is a part of majority of people's lives, whether they're,
yeah,
involved in playing an instrument or writing music or not. And so and everyone and artists, get big, they release their songs, people like it, they go to venues and they go to arenas and they sell them out. That shows that people love music, and it supports that creative fuel that the world really essentially needs, I think.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I think without music, I mean, the world would look pretty black and white.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's it's really a different way of talking about a specific concept, or um and I think it's so much about the feeling as well. It's like though the feeling that you get when you listen to an artist, a song for the first time that becomes your favorite song, whether it's the guitar riff that really sets you off, or the drum beat, or the lyrics themselves, or just the sound of the song. It's like that feeling, whether you're making music, because I'm a drummer myself, whether you're making music or just listening to it,
Yeah,
it really, I feel as though it's really a feeling that you can't really achieve anywhere else. Like even if the lyrics really spark something inside of you, those lyrics, if someone just said them to you, like in word matter in a conversation,
yeah,
it wouldn't really set you off on fire like that,
yeah,
like that song wouldn't. I feel as though, I mean, songs could change people's lives and finally ignite that motivation in themselves of like, your music about spirituality. Oh, maybe I should look more into this. Oh, maybe he's right, or whatever it is, right?
yeah, yeah. Emotions that come with discovering like something new for the first time, like music, certain like artist or song for the first time it's just unmatched. Like nothing else can almost like be that kind of, or be equal to that emotion, because yeah, it just feels like none other, just none other, and it's truly inspiring. Yeah,
Right. So you mentioned manifestation and the law of attraction before. Can you kind of break down what those are? Because I feel as though with social media and all. all the different information and creators out there. I feel as though those terms might have been misconstrued a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, so manifestation and the law of attraction is the foundation of it. I see it as that we are all one and that this energy is all interconnected. First of all, whether or not we all came from the Big Bang or not, I don't know. But if it is, we all came from that one source. And even if that Big Bang isn't, um, if that's not how everything came to be, I still believe like that we all are connected by the same source. Um, and there are certain experiments like superpositioning where particle can be basically affected by another particle, light years away, like so far away. um, I think that plays into it. And you know string theory as well is another thing that can really shed light on the law of attraction and manifestation. um, but it's really just the fact that we are all energy. We're all one. This energy is intertwined. We are literally magnetic beings. We have an electrical field within us, that and an electrical field that expands out of us, and that can be measured. you know and you can see what kind of electrical output is happening coming out of a human. And that's the same thing with thoughts, and the fact that we can emit a certain energy that is extending outwards. Like, we have an electromagnetic field that can be measured. I believe it's 8 meters, or 8 meters. I think it not 8 feet, but more. But that's only the kinds of instruments that we have. So is we're pretty limited in how much we can actually measure. um I think that's just like the foundation of it. But I think the real thing is, what you are constantly focusing on the energy that you maintain, the thoughts that you have, the energy that you put towards a certain thing is the thing that you're going to get reflected in your life. um I also just really think, to be able to manifest or to achieve, it's not just thinking that by having this energy that'll fall into my lap and that I can just meditate it and it's going to happen. There's a few components to actually make something happen, and that requires action. But not just action, but aligned action. So that's the big part about manifestation, is really just, to put it into simple words, is get your mind right on what you want in life, the outcome that you want to experience, and become obsessed with it. Have a vision for yourself and obsess over this vision. Have it on the forefront of your brain every single day. That way your energy, your thoughts are becoming aligned with this vision. And so what happens as a result of that? You start taking actions, you start making decisions, you start making choices. And manifestation is these choices and decisions are coming to life, based upon your vision, based upon your goal. So that is like one way of like explaining manifestation and the law of attraction. Action, aligned action is a massive way to actually achieve it. Not just meditating on it, having the gratitude that it's happening. That is a powerful way to set your energy up for it. And how I feel to set synchronicities in the world to happen for you, um, that can start happening for you from the meditations. But the actions as well will be like the momentum that just keeps things going. So yeah, so that's what.
Right. I mean, I really like that you made the distinction and the intention and aligning the thoughts with the action, because I feel as though there's a lot of information going around of if you just think about it, it's just going to come to you. And I guess sometimes that could happen, But I think for a lot of things in life, without action, without taking your physical body and doing something, then things aren't going to become a reality. Um, but also, I've noticed in my personal life that people I feel as though often believe that thoughts are just thoughts, and like you can speak words and then the words have power to them, but they're just thoughts. They're just limited to here. But I really don't think they are. I truly believe that your thoughts really do help dictate and create your reality, because I mean the simple example that I like to give is when you're in a positive mood and when you're in a negative mood. Like when you're in a good mood, you notice so many more good things happening throughout your day. When you're in a bad mood, you notice so many um, worse things that are happening. And
Yeah.
it's like, you're creating that experience for yourself, and you're choosing, you're consciously or unconsciously choosing what perspective you have on, the event that is happening. An event could happen, and the event, you will perceive it as positive or negative, but the event in of itself isn't really a positive or negative experience. It's just an event. It just is, and you kind of view it as, no, this is a good thing for me, or no, this is a bad thing for me.
Yeah, yeah. I think like a lot of people will think like, oh, manifestation isn't real because bad things are happening to me. Bad things are always happening. Um, and that the thing is like it's not that manifestation means that everything's gonna come true. Like it doesn't mean that all your thoughts are gonna like the negative things won't happen to you. The manifestation does not mean that. Things are gonna happen to you because for whatever reason, God's plan. So yeah, I wouldn't give up on manifestation because negative things happen, because also they can be very, very, transformational uh, things that you don't even realize that are occurring. Like some of the worst things that happen to us become some of the um, biggest driving forces that we have in our lives. Some of the things that make us the most successful in our lives. So yeah, there's no such thing as bad or good.
Right. Yeah, no, I really do believe, what you just said about, how our pain drives us so much of the time.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, my pain is what got me into self improvement and spirituality, and what essentially drove me to start this podcast and start creating content online. So without that pain and that depression that I went through for a certain period of time, I would not be doing any of this. And so of course during the time, life was horrible, but at
yeah,
this point in my life, I can look back and I can genuinely say to myself, I am grateful for this experience, because it has brought, times 1 million more blessings and opportunities into my life from that pain that I experienced.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of stuff going on in the world. What do you think is something or a few things that the world doesn't have right now, but if it did have and we had more of it, then, you know, the world would be better?
Yeah, I mean, the simple answer to that, I think, is empathy, because empathy is understanding. And when you can really understand where someone's coming from, then 99% of world conflict ends right there. That's kind of like
Yeah,
wars end because you can actually empathize. I think a lot of conflict happens when you can only see your side and you think you're right and the other person is wrong. The other side is wrong. And then all this conflict just goes on forever. So I think
right.
empathy is the answer.
Yeah. I mean, I see so much nowadays of just that. It's like we believe what we believe, and of course, there's nothing wrong with that. But um, the issue arises is that we believe what we believe, and if somebody thinks something different than us, there's somehow something wrong with them, and they must believe what we believe. And I don't think that's the way to go about life, because we all have different experiences and have taken in different information, and had completely different life experiences, and we have different diverse lives, and that is why I believe something and someone else might believe something else, because we're different, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with being different from one another. But at the same time, we all kind of come together, and we are the same kind of energy and being at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But overall, being different is it really isn't a bad thing. And like you just said, with more with more understanding in the world, wars would end, people would get along better, people wouldn't fight all the time and be divided over the billions of issues that people fight about. And people would actually be able to, maybe you wouldn't shift your belief, but if you listen to the other person, at least you can understand and like genuinely listen to them and genuinely understand. Oh, I don't agree with it necessarily, but I now actually understand why they believe what they believe.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. I think the differences between all of us are really what, while it could cause conflict, it's what makes us interesting. It's what makes the life interesting. And I just want to quickly emphasize, we were just talking about like the bad things that happen. I think also like these experiences, they're the things that just make your life more interesting. Like they make the story of your life more interesting too. Like you think like something so bad is happening in your life, but then if you think, later in life, this is going to be an amazing story to tell. It's going to make my story sound so much more epic than everything going smooth and easy, or just like all of us being the same, having no differences. That makes us, kind of boring. It makes life boring. If we're all literally the same, we all have the same ideas and perspectives, then life is boring. There's really nothing to discover. Then what's the point? You know?
Right. I mean, there would quite literally be no point in having a conversation with another human being because there's nothing to learn. There's nothing to talk about because you know what they're thinking and they know what you're thinking. You know what you believe and they believe because you're the exact same person.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like I think what God is and what all of this here is right now, what that we're experiencing, I think it's God trying to experience as many perspectives as humanly possible. I think that's what is all happening around us right now. And yeah, it's also too, I feel like, improve and overcome and become better. But I think it's just really the universe wants to experience as many perspectives as humanly possible. So that's why we have all these differences. That's why we all go through completely different experiences. Is completely unique and completely different their in who they are. And that's literally what makes life interesting. That's why we're here, I think. Um, so yeah, I think difference is to be embraced. Uniqueness is to be embraced.
Right. And I think once you, because I used to be very close minded, but once I kind of opened up my mind to, really listening to other people, in my experience, and I think in everyone's experience, if you already live that life or are trying to, or you do make some changes, it's it's probably one of the most beautiful and greatest things you can do to have an open mind. Listening, I like from having the podcast and just speaking to people, you know and everyday conversations, hearing people's different perspectives on life and what they've been through. All this stuff is so interesting. I mean, why just sit with myself all day and just think about my thoughts, which is great, but why not listen to what someone else is going through as well? And that's then an opportunity to connect with other human beings, because there's things that are similar between you guys and there's things that are different that you could still connect on and kind of draw different conclusions. I mean, I'm not a part of a specific religion, for example, but I love speaking to people who are a part of something. And whether it's Catholicism or Hinduism or whatever it is, and having them tell me about what their experience is like, what exactly they believe, what happens when you die, what does this mean, why is this happening to me in my life, and all the different explanations and all this stuff. And to look at different conclusions and, oh, maybe this is possible, or, oh, this is interesting. It's an endless curiosity. I think having that, curiosity for new ideas is always going to make your life a better place. Because, I mean, the reality is, if you have a closed mind and you believe what you believe right now and you're never open to listening to other ideas, you're probably going to stay the same person for the rest of your life when you could grow immensely.
Yeah, yeah,
Do you have any ideas of what you believe on what happens after you die?
yeah. I mean, uh, astral projection. Going back to that, I think what happens is that we go into an astral state, and I think a number of things can happen, which I don't really have the answer to. I think um, we either have a plan for us where we have to, learn certain lessons in life to maybe move on and beat the level of Earth and maybe go um, to another planet or another some other life, for distant galaxy far away. I think we have to maybe evolve and beat life, um, or we do just get the chance to just relive life again if we want, and maybe we get to choose even our circumstances beforehand. Maybe not. A lot of stuff like this kind of stuff too that I think about. It comes from learning and reading Robert Monroe's Journeys Out of the Body. I think that is a really really incredible, mind opening book because of all the incredible stories that Robert Monroe has experienced. So that really does shape what I think about what happens when we pass away. And yeah, I don't think we just end up in the dirt and we're done. I really don't think that's I really don't think that's what happens. And I really don't have too many doubts about that either. And so honestly, I think the fact that I believe that we go to the astrals and we live on, I think that keeps me I think that keeps me in a really good mindset.
There's so many different, ideas and philosophies and religions and just concepts and ideas in general that, I really think at the end of the day, it kind of comes down to what you end up, you know, seeing the most logic in for yourself and your personal
Yeah,
experience. I mean, I don't think there's much point in, shaming someone for having a different spiritual or religious belief than you, because it's like, like we were talking about before, everyone has different experiences that lead them to believe different things. Um, and whatever anyone believes is what anyone believes. Maybe I believe something different than Johnny, and uh, maybe I'm right and Johnny's wrong, or Johnny's right and I'm wrong, or we're both wrong, or we're both right. It's like who knows at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean, I really think it's about what works for you and what you just end up coming to believe. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with picking resonating with something fully and then sticking with that, or just continuing to you know look at different concepts and then maybe one day be a part of something or not. I think it's different for everyone, and that's a part of the beautiful experience as well.
yeah. And another thing that I learned from some other really advanced astral projectioners is that everyone there's um, so many different beliefs, like you said. Basically, what people think that's going to happen when they pass away. And so, from numerous astral projectioners, I've heard this that like certain beings, you know, multidimensional beings, they will they basically have like a job to facilitate people from Earth to their next experience, whatever that might be. And if someone is like, Christian, and they think that this is going to happen exactly like this, they're going to see their family all around them and all that, then these guides will give you the experience that you're expecting, So that way it's a smoother transition into the next step, whatever it might be. Because if it's like all set one way, I guess the way they put this is it could be too much of a shock on souls leaving the body, the physical body, that it would actually not be, kind of a not a smooth transition. So what they try to do, apparently, these astral guides, is they try to facilitate your passing on experience to match your expectations, or whatever you were raised with, whatever you've been, indoctrinated with. They kind of give you these expectations so you're not too shocked.
Right. That's really interesting. And then has there been any explanation on like after that transition, like, because I've heard about people who like remember past lives, but if I had to imagine, I would expect at this point of my knowledge that once you pass on and you have a different experience, whether it's on earth or different realm or different place, I would assume that most of us forget that past experience, or maybe there's an event that happens in our life or an experience that causes us to remember something. But I mean I don't know.
Are you saying why don't we remember some past lives, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because, well, apparently, what would happen is you wouldn't be able to conquer the lessons that you need to on in the certain lifetime. It'd be too overwhelming. Like to because one, if you get one thought that reminds you of your afterlife, it can become like really um not not therapeutic. I mean, like, say you were like, not such a great person in your past life, you did some really terrible things, and now you got this new life to forget about that, basically, and uh to evolve in different ways. And say you remembered that, and then all of a sudden this lifetime you're crippled by the fact that you did this in a previous lifetime.
Mm,
And then yeah, that would just be, I mean, this is kind of like what I've heard. So I kind of understand that. I kind of feel like that makes sense. I feel like it makes sense, and that it could just be too emotionally overwhelming to remember your past lovers, like to remember your past parents and like best friends that passed away and that you're not with them anymore. Like, then those previous experiences would just keep taking over these new lifetimes, and it's like you're not able to really have a clean slate to really learn the lessons that you need to. So maybe you need to have these different lifetimes so you could tackle problems, tackle issues, without that baggage, because it's just too much.
right. I
People,
mean,
and then in this lifetime they can achieve, actually tackle these issues and conflicts in this lifetime, and actually become like a better soul because of that. When, yeah, like kind of like improving karma, kind of like improving karma.
yeah. I mean,
So
I mean, the explanation. I mean, it makes complete logical sense of it would very well definitely be too overwhelming to have a completely new life where you're supposed to have completely new experiences, meet new people, new beings, and then you're just and then like you're like assuming you have to sleep like human beings do. If you're another human, I guess another being, it's like you're going to bed at night and you're like, oh well, I remember this happened in my past life, and I remember when that happened to my
yeah,
girlfriend, and it's way too, it would be way too much.
yeah, this lifetime already is too much, man. It's already too much. I don't think I can handle previous lifetimes. I don't want to know.
That would be wild.
Yeah.
A lot of people are struggling in life, with tons of different issues and experiences that they've had to have them view the world a certain way or get into a certain state. What do you think are like the first steps and things that people can do to really start to elevate their lives?
I think, well, first, things that are kind of easy, somewhat easy to take care of initially is to improve diet. I think really that's just a simple way of like learning to respect yourself. And by respecting yourself, you start to respect others. If you're eating like crap all the time, processed foods, tons of sugar, all this all these chemicals and pesticides, your body's going to become ravaged. So how the heck are you supposed to think clearly? How the heck are you supposed to tap into empathy when your body is literally being destroyed? So I think diet is a great way to start getting into, self improvement and living a better life. And I think, once you can start learning to respect yourself by giving it the proper things that it needs, the proper nutrients, you can start respecting others and finally getting into more empathy, as we talked about. So I think that's a great way to start. And then I think like the next thing is like getting into meditation, because what happens with meditation is you just start becoming more empathic. You just start getting you you start needing less. If you have a what it feels like a gaping hole in your like in your life, it starts getting filled with meditation. And it's like it's not just like a patch, it becomes like long term. It really has a long lasting effect of meditation. But that means doing it, somewhat consistent, not just for 5 minutes. I mean, that's a good way to start, though. No, no, your question was, how do you start? So that's a good way to start, at least with 5 minutes of meditation, uh, and then yeah, hopefully you would work yourself up to more, because that's where you really start feeling whole. You start really feeling fulfilled just from meditation, and you start feeling compassion towards all life, and you start feeling more empathy towards all life, and then all your goals all of a sudden start to feel achievable. Like you start feeling like you can actually start achieving things, because you cleaned up your diet, you start meditating, you start yeah, like the thing about meditation is it's like you start tapping into states of non-linear time. And then this just has a profound effect on how much you think you can start achieving. And you get such clarity, you start getting such clarity, because you're not being controlled by your thoughts. And I think being controlled by thoughts is what leads to a lot of the devastation that we have right now in society, because people are just think that their thoughts are who they are, and that's not the truth, because our mind is literally programmed to spit out all this stuff nonstop. Doesn't mean that's who you are. So once you can start disassociating from your thoughts and learning to actually to to put more emphasis on the thoughts that serve you more, you can start doing that and start letting
Right.
go of that negativity. You can start letting go of that anxiety, and those kinds of emotions. I'm not saying that they're bad things, but like you can start getting a handle on it. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. That was great advice, because I think so many of us kind of let our thoughts and our minds get out of control, and then once the thoughts are running wild, we don't know how to reel ourselves in and calm ourselves down to not feeling anxious 99% of the time, and like everything is crazy.
Yeah, like you could like sometimes like you can have thoughts like where you think like, oh, I suck or something like that, like I'm shit. Like you can have thoughts like that, but if you're like a seasoned meditator, it's like, yeah, that's just my monkey brain, my monkey mind, just spinning nonsense. I choose to not align or to not put any emphasis on that. I'm gonna let that go. Bye bye. See you later. But a lot of people, because they don't have this experience with meditation and disassociating through the thoughts, they'll be like, if they have a certain any thought that comes into their brain, they gotta like cling on to it. They gotta cling on to every thought. Like, oh, I'm such a bad person. Oh yeah, I guess I am. Oh, why am I such a bad person? And then they just go down this rabbit hole of negativity. They're spiraling into all these different chaotic states because they just can't let go of their thoughts.
Right. Yeah. I mean, letting go is so powerful because it's, holding on to, thoughts or, perceived negative experiences. Um, it can do a lot more harm than good. And, there's no point of thinking about your past throughout your entire day today. That it's like you take the negative experience that happened to you, take the lesson from it, you know, acknowledge the emotions, and then move on. And realize that that you thought it was the end in that moment and life was horrible, but you're here now and you're still here and everything's still going. So you're already able to move on. You just might need to relearn the skill to do it, or it might take some time. But you're able to do it, and life will go on, and more beautiful things will happen. Of course, more negative things will happen too, but that's just life.
Yeah. I think that's it right there. Just learning to let go. Such an amazing skill. Have such a powerful skill, which will take you to the greatest heights you can ever imagine. Letting go.
Right. Absolutely. Obvious. Really appreciate you coming on today.
Oh man, I'm honored. Thank you so much. It's been a blast. I'm happy to be on this pod with you. Thanks so
Where
much.
can people check out your music, your socials, all that?
Um, I'm on almost every platform as Opvious. You can find me. Yeah, find me on anywhere. Find me on Instagram, Opvious, TikTok, which is actually Opvious 555, and yeah, YouTube, Opvious, Spotify, Opvious. So yeah.
Yeah, and guys, go check out his Into the Flames album. That's my favorite album by far.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thanks, man.
We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.